First, though, today, Donald Trump was in a place that he will be spending lots of time this year, and that is, of course, a courthouse. This one was for closing arguments in the New York civil trial against the Trump Organization for Fraud. The ex-president was there attempting to derail the final day with a statement to the press when he got there and a statement to the press when he left. And in between, a 5-minute courtroom rant in his defense, a rant that ended with the judge telling Trump's lawyers, quote, control your client. Trump's antics are getting most of the headlines. But to my mind, the real headline of today happened before anyone arrived at the courthouse.
Mary, we are just days away from the caucus, and the former president is a world away from Iowa here in lower Manhattan. But in many ways, this was a campaign stop for Trump. He used it as a political move to rally his base, even as he faces real legal consequences for his business here in New York. Here at the courthouse in New York, security is a little tighter today following a bomb threat made this morning at the judge's home.
That's right. A bomb threat to Judge Arthur Engoron's home. His actual real home, because it's not hard to find people's addresses in the 21st century. A threat that delayed the trial this morning because they had to do sweeps and add extra layers of security because someone had called a bomb threat into the judge's home. We don't know all the particulars of that. We don't know who did it. But it appears to be the latest example of mob-style intimidation by pro-Trump MAGA loyalists that has become disturbingly common. Just a part of day-to-day life in the Trump era. Oh, bomb threat. Oh, yeah, got to delay a little bit. I mean, remember, when this trial began last fall, Judge Engoron had to slap a gag order on Trump after the former president baselessly smeared a court officer on social media, saying she was a political operative, including a photo of her in the Post. And she and the judge were subsequently flooded with threats. And not just threats, anti-Semitic slurs and harassing voicemail. She reportedly got 30 threatening calls a day on her cell phone, her personal cell phone, 50 a day on email and social media. The FBI and Homeland Security got involved. The court order officer, again, this is an anonymous staffer at the court, basically, right? Now needs extra security. So on top of that, you now have a bomb threat at, again, the home of the judge. These happen in life sometimes, and we sort of say it and move past it. But I want you to just take a second of, like, what your day would have been like today if it started with a bomb threat at your home, okay? And everything I just said is one Trump trial. One. It follows a pattern of dangerous and potentially violent intimidation of people who have attempted to hold Donald Trump to account under the rule of law. There were the death threats made last month against the Colorado Supreme Court justices who ruled Trump ineligible for the ballot under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment for having supported the Capitol insurrection. A week later, the Secretary of State for Maine, who determined, like the Colorado court, that Trump is similarly ineligible for the ballot, was the victim of a hoax emergency call that a man had broken into her home, sending the police there, something called swatting, right, with the idea of getting a SWAT team to show up at a person's home. Then on Christmas Day, Jack Smith, the Department of Justice special counsel, was targeted with one of those fake calls. Someone called 911 claiming he had shot his wife. Just last weekend, Tanya Chutkan, the federal judge who was overseeing Trump's criminal trial for election interference, when police responded to false reports of a shooting at her house. She was home at the time. To be clear, that was not even the first time Judge Chutkan was threatened over her work on this trial.
A Texas woman was arrested and charged with threatening a federal judge who was overseeing Donald Trump's election case in Washington, D.C. Authorities had already increased security around U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan after the former president demanded her recusal last week. Prosecutors say the 43-year-old defendant left a threatening voicemail message for Chutkan saying, quote, if Trump doesn't get elected in 2024, we are coming to kill you.
That was from this past August. Now, keep in mind, we just began this week with Trump's lawyer in federal court making the argument that he could send SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival and face zero sanctions or accountability or legal consequences so long as he held on to 34 loyal votes in the Senate. Now, that is the most extreme version of Trump's openly fascistic vision of politics and power. But what I want to stress to you tonight, on a day that began with a bomb threat at the home of a judge overseeing a trial, is the banal daily version of those politics is here already. It's not a hypothetical. That version is people that cross Donald Trump in pursuit of holding him accountable to the law face constant threats of violence and intimidation and harassment, and sometimes actual violence. The most obvious example being, of course, January 6th, when he told people to march to the Capitol, and he said it will be wild. And after they had ransacked the Capitol and he watched them do it, he went after his Vice President Mike Pence, who was in a secure location with the Secret Service, painting a target on the man's back, putting Pence in genuine physical peril, with rioters erecting a gallows with a noose. Trump's celebration of violent threats against his perceived antagonist goes back years.
So if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees. I promise.
And when you see these thugs being thrown into the back of a paddy wagon, you just see them thrown in, rough. I said, please don't be too nice.
I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
People hear this message loud and clear, no matter how much he tries to cover it in the cadence of comedy. People like, for instance, real people like Cesar Sayoc. Remember that name? The devoted MAGA fan who went to lots of Trump rallies in the lead up to the 2018 midterms. You may know him better as the MAGA bomber, who on the eve of those midterms made a list of people he saw as enemies of Donald Trump and mailed them pipe bombs. People like Joe Biden and George Soros and Barack Obama. And then there was the attack on Nancy Pelosi's elderly husband, Paul, who on the eve of the next midterms in 2022 was nearly killed in his home with a hammer by a man who had fallen down a right-wing rabbit hole on the internet. Paul Pelosi had his skull fractured. And what did Trump do? What does he still do today? He jokes about that attack continuously. It's part of his routine, sending the message to everyone who listens to him that it was funny and it was good that the man nearly killed Paul Pelosi with a hammer in his home, that is a funny thing. And he's out there doing it right now, just the other day. After the immunity argument where his lawyers argued he could order the assassination of political rivals, Trump comes outside to threaten violence. He said there will be, quote, bedlam in the country if he doesn't get immunity from prosecution for his crimes. It's the same thing he did when he told his supporters before January 6th, be there, will be wild. Then he told them Mike Pence didn't have the guts to do what needed to be done. Like, we all understand what's happening here, right? All of us. You think it's a coincidence? A coincidence that this week, after he said there would be bedlam, there was a bomb threat directed at the judge in his New York trial? I don't know. Maybe, but I do know. Then when you look at the worst case, most intolerable incursion of essentially fascistic violence by the MAGA faction, combined with Trump's legal arguments in court, you have to consider that we are already living with a version of it in America today every day.